CloverPit is one of the most addictive games ever. Launching it is like entering a real-life casino, trapped in a room with no clocks or windows. All you can do is gamble away your notion of time. The premise of the game is simple. The player is locked inside what seems to be a prison cell, alongside a slot machine and an ATM demanding money. Before the deadline ends, if you manage to make enough money to pay off your debt, you advance to the next round. On the contrary, the floor beneath you opens and you fall to your death. For the vast majority of players, this concept alone is enough to get them hooked. Purchase Lucky Charms at the store to improve your odds of making money, spin the slot machine, gamble for your life, and see how many deadlines of exponentially rising debts you can survive. However, when playing this game, I couldn't help but wonder, what is the context to all of this? What type of person do we play as that deserves to be locked away to gamble for their life in a dystopian, infinitely repeating prison that seems to have no way out? Can we even escape this place? Or are we condemned to make money for our captor until we're no longer useful and disposed of? I was determined to make sense out of the universe of CloverPit, knowing it would be a challenge. With the game only offering 2 different environments, I knew there wasn't much to work with, or so I thought. CloverPit has 3 possible endings. The first and most simple happens when you fail to pay off your debt and you fall into the abyss. The second, also known as the bad ending, takes place when you stack up enough money to purchase this big red key, allowing you to unlock the cell door and escape. The sight that follows is horrifying. We soon come to understand where we are, a seemingly infinitely repeating structure of towers that extends beyond what the eye can see, in every direction. We come to learn that this prison is divided into an unknown number of blocks, each with their corresponding 4 pillars, interconnected by very skinny bridges. Upon reaching the center platform, a dormant slot machine awaits. When interacting with it, it turns on and says its classic line, "Let's go gambling." The screen cuts to black and the game ends. In order to understand why this is considered the bad ending, we must cover the good ending first. In the true ending, we're awarded the white key, and what awaits us in the center platform is no longer a slot machine, but what appears to be a control panel. We push the red button and ascend, finally escaping the prison. Or did we? The most interesting part about this ending is what happens once we load a new game. We have now been moved from Tower 0 to Tower 1. This is something that doesn't happen in the bad ending. As long as that slot machine is in the middle of the platform, we will be forever stuck in Tower 0. So if we manage to achieve the good ending 3 more times, and escape Towers 1, 2, and 3, can we escape this block? Does that mean freedom, or will we be placed in the next block, only to do the same all over again? Is true freedom even an option? I had to find out the answer to this question and see how many towers I could go through, determined to see if this prison really is infinite or not. The only issue with this is that achieving the true ending isn't the easiest task in the world. A core mechanic of CloverPit is the telephone. At the start of every deadline, we receive a call from a mysterious person who lets us choose between 3 perks that'll help build a strategy to survive longer. However, it seems more than one person is on the other side of the line. A message carved into the cell wall right next to the telephone, most likely by a previous inmate, reads, "Do not trust everyone," with the last word written in red, with their own blood. This message refers to the red phone calls we receive on deadline 3, 7, and any other in which we lose money to a 666 in the slot machine. These calls are designed to tempt the player into picking a juicy offer, only to later punish them by granting the red key instead of the white one. In other words, if you're tempted by any of the red phone's offers, you get the bad ending and are condemned to keep gambling for your life in the same cell you started in. This explains why a previous inmate tried to warn us about the red phone after meeting the same fate, and eventual death, given that we occupy their cell. In order to get the true ending, we must resist the tempting offers and hang up on the red phone every time it calls. Each time we do this, one of the 6s on the floppy disk will be crossed out. After rejecting 3 red phone calls, our salvation appears. The Holy Phone Call. Aside from giving some of the greatest perks in the game, the Holy Phone Call changes the key from red to white, allowing us to finally escape this cell, only to end up in another. The phone calls have a clear religious connotation, just like the rest of the game does. Don't be tempted by the devil, and God will save you. However, I don't believe it's actually God or the devil behind the phone, but most likely employees of the prison, putting us to the test. If this is actually a prison for people who are in severe debt, a premise similar to that of the Squid Games. The phone calls act as a filter, determining who prioritizes their life and who prioritizes money. Inmates who accept red phone calls are more likely to fall into great debt again, since they can be manipulated by a stranger into investing in something that has an uncertain outcome. This is why they're not granted freedom and are used to make as much money as possible before they fail to meet the deadline and are disposed of. Inmates with the willpower to refuse the tempting offers of the red phone, however, prove they aren't blinded by money and wish to be reinserted into society, which is why they're ascended. Perhaps, if they prove this for long enough, they're granted true freedom? As I worked my way up the towers, I got closer and closer to finding the answer. To better understand the context of CloverPit, we must thoroughly analyze the little space we're given. This side of the room offers nothing too out of the ordinary. The slot machine we depend on sits on a desk where we place the lucky charms we purchase. It's what sits under the desk that leads to one of the most disturbing theories about this game: a recycling container filled with what seems to be other prisoners' remains. But how would their bodies be here if they drop to their death into the abyss below? Everything points toward the fact that the pillars don't only contain one cell, but possibly hundreds, extending above and below the one we play in. What we see in our cell are the remains of the unfortunate inmates above us, who fell to their death exactly on the platform we stand on. Their blood still lingers. Something that further reinforces this theory are the corpse pieces we can find inside our drawers, also belonging to those who fell to their death in our cell and were disposed of in a pretty gruesome manner, separating the flesh from their bones, very possibly using this crane that hangs above us, still covered in blood. This whole theory made me wonder, if the cells extend upwards, who says they don't extend downwards as well? Will we end up being the pile of flesh in a cell below us? How far does this prison really extend? Are there negative levels? I had to keep climbing up the towers to unravel this mystery. When further examining the cell, it is obvious to see we're being monitored 24/7. A surveillance camera tracks our every move and sends the signal to an employee of the facility, who communicates with us through the megaphone. This same employee could be the one behind the phone calls, putting us to the test to determine if we have been rehabilitated or not, and I was willing to prove I was worthy of freedom. And so, my quest to the top of the prison began. I knew it wouldn't be an easy journey, since for those of you who don't know, getting the true ending requires the player to place the corpse pieces on the slot machine, increasing the total debt significantly. But it is a necessary sacrifice in order to get the white key. My game plan was simple: equip all the corpse pieces and get the skull as soon as possible to complete the skeleton. Then, prioritize charms that grant luck and general value scaling above anything else, given that I only have to make it till deadline 8, deposit the 250,000, and leave with the key. Through trial and error, I found a way to guarantee a red phone call on the next deadline. I'm not sure if this is exactly how it works, but it was effective for me 100% of the time. Triggering a 666 and losing money on the final round of a deadline guarantees a red phone call at the start of the next one. Big emphasis on the losing money part, since it seems if a 666 triggers but you don't lose any earnings, the red phone call isn't guaranteed. After discovering this mechanic, I knew what I had to do. Whenever money was abundant, roll the store until the possessed cell phone appears, a lucky charm that grants a 666 on the next spin. With the cell phone equipped, I could safely trigger a 666 on the first spins of the last round, losing enough money to get the red phone call later, but making enough back to survive the deadline. With this method, I could get a holy phone call as early as deadline 6, which I know isn't optimal for a lengthy run, but very effective for getting the white key as soon as possible and escaping on deadline 8. With my strategy established, all that was left was to ascend the layers of the prison in search for true freedom. After making it to Tower 3 and escaping it, I wasn't surprised at all with what came after. A block identical to the previous one, containing Towers 5 to 7. I supposed it wouldn't be that easy. So here we go again. Equip the corpse pieces, find the cell phone as soon as possible, trigger the red phone calls, and most importantly, try to survive with the immense handicap this poses. Not only am I playing with an extra debt that rises exponentially every deadline, but missing out on phone abilities in the early game makes earning money quite difficult. Nevertheless, I pushed through the block, clearing the towers until escaping the final one, only to be placed in another. I suppose 2 blocks isn't that impressive. I'll have to keep going to prove I'm determined. Tower 8, Tower 9, Tower 10, Tower 11. Straight into another block of identical towers. I was convinced there had to be an alternative ending to this game, so I kept going. Tower 12, Tower 13, Tower 14, Tower 15. Straight into another one. Maybe I have to reach 20? 4 cell phones and 12 rejected calls later, I was in the exact same spot, with no variation to the ending, looking at the 3 new towers that awaited me. What I found most interesting was that instead of feeling disappointed and drained from doing the same thing over and over again, each tower I cleared got me more hooked to the game, and more hopeful that the next would be the one. Every time I told myself I'd reach an even number and call it quits, I couldn't bring myself to. What if I was only a couple towers off of discovering the secret ending? What if I quit before making a big discovery? What if I'm a couple rounds off of being the first person to truly win in CloverPit? I told myself Tower 30 would be the limit. 21, 22, 25, 28, 29, and 30. Still nothing. Still the same old control panel in the center of the platform, and the screen cutting to black. Despite telling myself to stop at 30, all I could think about was reaching 50. There had to be a deeper meaning to this game. And then it dawned on me. This mindset I developed, the fear of quitting before a big win, the irresistible urge to keep going, that's precisely what CloverPit is all about. A gambling addiction. Even the person speaking through the megaphone was amazed at my persistence. I accepted then and there that there wasn't a secret ending to CloverPit, and all that awaited me were endless identical towers and a deeper addiction. Perhaps I gaslit myself this whole time into believing I was reaching a goal, when in reality all I wanted was to experience that sweet dopamine of hitting a jackpot again and again, until it was totally meaningless. Despite the fact I couldn't find that secret ending, I still enjoyed theorizing about the CloverPit universe. As always, the comment section is open for you to share your own theories and findings. I would love to hear them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Maybe just one more round.